So in this video we're going to push ahead a little bit and we're going to add a garage and a back porch to our house. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here and bring back up our house that doesn't have those things. Okay, so here we are. Let's start off with the garage because it's definitely the easier of the two. And you'll recall that we made our house 30 feet wide. So let's go ahead and make the garage 20 feet wide. So what I want to do is leave 5 feet on each side. So I've grabbed my tape measure. I'm going to press Control, so I see that little icon on the bottom right hand side. That means I'm going to be drawing a guideline. I'm going to come to the very side of the house and pull one off, and I'm going to press or type in rather 5 apostrophe for 5 feet. Do the same thing on the other side. 5 apostrophe enter. So now I have two guidelines 5 feet in from both sides. That will allow me to get my rectangle tool and draw my garage. And I'm going to make mine about 15 feet tall, so I'll go ahead and type in 20 feet, comma, 15 feet, and press enter. And simple enough, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my push-pull. I'm going to click and pull this out, and let's pull it out about 20 feet. So 20 apostrophe enter. Just like that. Just like before, we're going to take the offset tool and we're going to take the roof and we're going to offset it about 8 inches. At which point we'll go ahead and raise each of them up. Also about 8 inches. But we are going to use a somewhat different method to make the roof. If I start erasing things now, given that the garage is sort of attached to the rest of the house, it's not going to go as well as I'd like it to. So we're going to use a somewhat different set of tools. You might have noticed that on the left hand side of my screen I do have this extra set of tools that you might not have on yours. If you go to View and click on Toolbars, make sure that you have the large tool set clicked, and once you do that you'll also have these tools. You're going to need to do that because we need this one in particular right here called the protractor. So I'm going to grab the protractor and make sure you get the same kind of view I have right now. So I'm sort of looking straight on the side of the garage. And you'll see this protractor is going to want to sort of clip to certain sides. What I want to do is I want to come to this corner right here. And I want to make sure that this protractor is basically, think of it sort of like it's looking right at me, sort of smiling at me. I don't want it to be looking anywhere else. There's a better example of it. It sort of likes to jump and be on whatever face it can. I need it to be sort of facing me directly. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click one time. Now, what that did is it locked it down. Now, I'm going to come straight out from the protractor all along this line of the garage roof. Doesn't matter how far I come out, I'm coming out straight across, and that's just setting the protractor's 0 degree mark. So I click again. And now when I move the mouse, I'm creating a guideline, but based on an angle. And the angle I'm going to want to go ahead and choose, I'm going to type it in, is 23.5. You see it on the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and I'll press enter. And that's really all I need from the protractor, because what I can do is this. I'm going to grab my line tool. I'm going to find the midpoint of the garage here. Once I've done that, I'm going to click and I'm going to go straight upward. So once I find the blue axis, I'm going to hold down shift. And I'm going to go until I meet that guideline I just created. And I'll go ahead and click. And from there, I just need to attach it to that side and attach it to this side. And I made a triangle. At which point, I can delete that middle line I made. And now, if you think about it, making the rest of the roof will be pretty easy. I'm just going to go ahead and take my push-pull, grab that triangle piece, and bring it all the way across until it's touching the other side of the house. It's possible that, as I did, I lost this face of the garage, of the roof rather. No big deal. Just grab your line tool and retrace probably this line right here, and it'll pop right back up with no issues. And my screen is starting to get cluttered up with some of these guidelines, so I'm just going to take my eraser and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a few of these. It's just starting to annoy me a little bit. I can get rid of that one and that one as well. Okay, so we've made the actual structure of the garage. We've given it a roof. Let's go ahead and add the door. I'm going to grab my tape measure and I'm going to come to the line where the garage meets the house, and I'm going to make a guideline 2 feet over. So I'm going to come across, type in 2 apostrophe enter, do the same thing here, 2 apostrophe enter, and we'll come up from the ground, and let's say we'll make this about 10 feet high. Seem to have missed. That's fine. Let me get a better view. I need to press control. Coming up, and I'll say 10 feet. Enter. That's looking a little small. I'll make it 12. No, I feel like it better is 10. So we're going to go back to 10 feet, and that looks fine. So what I'm going to do is draw a rectangle based on that. Those guidelines I've just created. I'm going to get my push-pull. I'm going to push it in, and we've been pushing it in about 2 inches. So 2 enter, and yep, there is the beginning of the door. I'll go ahead and lose those guidelines for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some windows across this garage door, which I think is a pretty standard thing in a lot of garage doors. So I am going to draw a rectangle here. Let's make them square. So let's make them 2 feet by 2 feet. We will, as we've been doing, we will add a little offset. Let's add a 2-inch offset. We will pull that offset, if I can get it selected. We'll pull that offset out about 1 inch, and we'll push the window back about 1 inch. Okay, and I will then grab my paint bucket, and if you don't have the glass selected already, you can get the eyedropper and click on the glass over here, so we can make this one glass as well. Okay. Remember, we're focusing on the outside of the house, so right now the inside looks a bit strange because there's no definition between the garage and the house. But that's no big deal for now. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and select the whole window, and I'll right-click and make it a group. And I think I must have grabbed something extra, because I'm not sure why that blue line came down there. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to try and select just the window if I can. And remember, if you get extra things selected, it can become a problem. When you start moving things around, you're moving things you don't intend to. So I think that's better. I'll right-click one more time and do Make Group. Okay, that's better. And now I will do a slightly different scenario when I move this. So I'm going to click the Move button at the top. I'm going to press the Control key once, and that adds the little plus icon, which means I'm going to be making a copy. I'm going to grab the far corner here. Things move better when you grab them by the corners. And I'm going to move it straight across. So once I see that green for red, it might be red for you, but for me it's green. I'll hold down the Shift key. I'm going to move it all the way over. I'm going to make it so it's about the same distance away from the end of the garage door as this one is. And I'll drop that one there. And now, before I do anything else, I'm going to type /, which you can think of as sort of a divide key. And I'm going to type in a number. For example, I'll type in 4. And what it's done is it's made a total of 4 copies from the first one, and it's automatically spaced them out evenly. If I were to instead type /3, it's only going to make 3, but once again, it spaces them out evenly, and that's really great. So you can decide whether you want to have 4. Once you start getting above 5, you're probably going to have them start running into each other, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think I'm going to do a total of 5 windows here in my garage, and I think that looks really nice. Moving on to the back of the house, it's time to start our porch. You'll recall that the house is about 50 feet long, so I want the porch to be about 30 feet long. So I'm going to go ahead and get my tape measure to add some guidelines, and I'm going to make one 10 feet off of that side of the house, and I forgot to type the apostrophe for feet, so let's do that again. And 10 feet off of this side of the house. So if I take off 10 feet from each side of the 50-foot house. That leaves my porch at about, well, exactly 30 feet. I'm going to make a guideline from the bottom here backwards. I want my porch to be about 20 feet wide, so I'll type 20 apostrophe enter. And now I'm actually going to use my pencil tool, my pen tool here, to make a rectangle. It's going to be a little bit easier to line up with the guidelines here. So I'm going to start here at this intersection, and as soon as I see either the red or the green, I'm going to hold down Shift to lock it on. I'm going to bring it there. Now I'm going to come over, and once I see the red or the green, I'm going to lock it down with Shift again, but this time I'm going to bring my pen over to this intersection, and that'll make sure that the line I'm actually making only goes that far. And now I'm just going to connect those. So I've got my rectangle now. This rectangle really is actually kind of more of a guide than anything. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to grab my actual rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a 4 by 4 inch rectangle in each one of these corners. So I'll make a rectangle, and I'll be 4, 4, enter. Actually I think I'll do 8, 8 in each one of these corners. These are going to end up being the posts of my porch. And once I have those, I no longer need these lines in between, so I'll go ahead and lose those. I can lose those guidelines as well. And I'm going to raise up all 4 of those posts. I'm going to raise them up 36 inches. So I'm going to type in 36, enter. And for the other ones, I can either type it in again, or I can just hold the mouse over here to indicate I want it to be the same height as that one. And that way I know I'll get 4 posts the exact same height. And now I can draw a rectangle from one corner of the porch down to the other, which I can then raise up an additional 4 inches. And once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and raise these posts as well to meet it. And that's sort of the base of the porch. So now let's go ahead and make some railings for it. I'm going to go ahead and grab my eraser, and I'm going to get rid of the little post lines here. But I'm going to replace them with a smaller rectangle. I don't want the posts of my fence railing to be that big, so these are going to be 4 by 4. So 4, 4, enter. And actually, I'll just do that one for now. And I'm going to go ahead and raise it up about 4 feet, which would be about 48 inches. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line separating it from the base of the porch. That way, what I can do now is I can grab each side of it individually. So I'm going to grab this side. I'm going to hold down Shift for the rest of these, so that each one is selected. I need the top as well. This one, and I need one more. Now I have all 4 sides and the top selected. I'm going to right click and make that a group. So now I have sort of one post of my deck that I can move and copy at my will. So let's go ahead and grab the move tool. We will press the control key once to mean that I'm going to be copying. I'm going to grab the corner here, and I'm going to slide it all the way over. I'm going to lock it in with the Shift key when I see that green line, or it might be red in your case. And actually, I made sort of a mistake there. I should actually grab this corner. So I'm going to grab that corner, and that way when I get to the edge here, it will snap for me right on the edge like that. And now, before I do anything else, I'm going to remember that trick I did last time to add a bunch of evenly spaced copies. And I'm going to press /, and I think I'll go ahead and do 30 copies. And that's about the distance I want in between them. So what I'm going to do now is, for my own reference, I'm going to grab the tape measure tool. I'm not actually making a guide now, I actually just want to measure. So I'm going to press Control so I don't see that little icon anymore, and I want to measure in between these posts. And you'll see in the bottom right hand corner, the distance between them is 7 7/8 of an inch. So that's going to be important here in just a second. Because what I'm going to do is grab this post again. I'm going to go get the move tool again, press the control key to copy it, and I'm going to start to move it. And I'm going to tell it to go 7 7/8 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and press 7 space 7/8 inches and press enter. Now that one's got the same exact spacing as this other row, but this time I'm going to tell it, instead of dividing, I'm going to say asterisk, so multiply, which I can get by pressing the shift, holding down the shift and pressing the 8 button. I'm going to tell it to make, I think I'm going to go with 30 copies. Just like that. And they're just the same amount of spacing as before. And that looks pretty good. And I'm going to leave this one alone for now. I'm going to go ahead and put a railing on top. So I'm going to come and draw a rectangle. I'm going to close this window to make it a little easier to see. I'm going to draw a rectangle all the way across like that. And I'm going to raise it up just about 2 inches. Then I'll draw another rectangle. And I'll start there, and I'll move to there. All right, see, that's not quite what I want, because I started on the base and I moved upwards by accident. That's not going to do what I want it to do, so let's undo that. Let's try that again. That's what I was looking for. I'm going to raise that up 2 inches, and that is sort of 2 sides of my porch. The next step is a little tricky, and that's going to be making some steps. And so I changed my mind. I'm actually going to go ahead and put some railings across here just to get that over with. So I've selected this last railing, and I'm going to grab my move tool, press control, and I'm going to do the same thing I've done before. I'm going to tell it to move 7 7/8. I'm going to multiply that by 30. And let's go ahead and make that railing. Actually, I'm not going to make the railing, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase several of these railings to make room for the steps. So I'm going to start from here and get rid of several of them. I think that many should be good. So now basically I need to make 2 extra railings. And I'll raise them up 2 inches. Much better. So the steps can be kind of tricky, but I've done most of the math already, so you can just sort of follow my lead and it shouldn't be too big of a problem. The first thing I'm going to do is add some guidelines. Surprise, surprise. So I'm going to draw some lines from this point, the edge of the railing, straight down. So once I get the blue line, I'm going to hold down Shift to lock it in, and I'm going to go all the way down to the ground. I'm going to do that on both sides. So once I see that blue line, I'm coming all the way down. Now I'm going to make one to connect them. Okay, so now I'm going to make a rectangle, but it's one of those times when it makes more sense for me to use the line tool to make a rectangle than the actual rectangle tool. So I know that my steps need to come out 50 inches. So I'm going to start where these guidelines intersect, and once I see that green line, I'm going to stop and say 50 inches. I'm going to come across, and when I see that red line, I'm going to hold down Shift and then bring my mouse over here so that it knows that's how far I want it to go. Then I'll just connect that, and I'll connect that, and I've made my rectangle. Next, I need to get my selection tool, and I'm going to right-click on this line right here. And one of my options is divide, which is really nice. And I'm going to divide it. You see that when I click that, I have this thing down here called segments. I'm going to press 5, enter. And it doesn't look like a lot happened, but something did happen. If I grip my pencil tool again, I have these endpoints now divided evenly into 5 sections. So when I see that one of those, I'm going to click and draw a straight line across. straight across. Okay, so you might be able to guess what's going to happen next. And I happen to know that from here to here is 40 inches. And I've made 5 steps, which means that 40 divided by 5 means my steps are going to be 8 inches high. So the first one's going to go all the way to the top. It's going to go up to 40 inches. The next one is going to go up to 40 minus 8, which is 32, 24, oops, I goofed that one up. So let's see, 24, keeps doing that. Let's see, 16, and finally 8. And what I get is this nice even progression from one step to the next. I can take my eraser tool and I can get rid of these lines because they're not really adding anything. And I can do that on both sides. And just like that, I've made some steps that lead up to my porch. The only thing to do at this point is to add a nice big glass door so we can get from our house onto our porch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make the sliding glass door now, but before I do that, I'm going to do one thing. I didn't take the time to really do the math to make sure that these railings lined up precisely with the side of the house. And you'll notice that there isn't really a crisp line here like there is for most other surfaces. And that's going to be true in a few places in this house, like where this roof meets the rest of the house. I wasn't going for 100% complete precision here, so I wasn't too concerned about it. I'm going to do something right now to fix that. And what I'm going to do is come down to each of these railings and get them selected, right click, and do intersect faces with model. I'm going to do the same for the other, and that's going to sort of create that crisp line that I need in order to make my guides. So at this point, I can keep going. So I want a 10-inch sliding glass door. I want it to be right in the middle of the deck, and the deck is 30 feet long. So what I want is I want 10 feet on each side of the deck. I'm going to grab my tape measure tool, and I am going to draw a line from the end of that railing. We're going to go 10 feet. Then I can just start right from the same guideline. We'll go 10 more feet. And that way I've divided my porch into 3 sections. I'm going to come up from the floor, and I'm going to raise this up 7 feet. And now I have the outline for my sliding glass door. I'll grab the rectangle tool and I'll use my guides to create that. I'll grab the offset tool and we'll add a 2-inch offset around that like we've done a bunch of times. Now, tape measure one more time. Let's find the middle of the sliding glass door. So that would be 5 feet in. And just like the window panes, I'm going to come and do 1 inch on either side of this middle line. And that, of course, will be my guide for this sort of middle of the glass. I will use my eraser to erase this line that's disconnecting them a little bit. We will push the panes of glass in 2 inches, and we'll pull the frame out by 1 inch. And we'll get our paint bucket tool, and we will paint them. And now we have a nice sliding glass door that leads out to our porch. We did some railings, we added some stairs, now we have a garage, and we're looking pretty good. It should be straight sailing from here. The hard stuff's over with.